Hey everybody, it's Kelly with Inky Hands Warm Hearts. How are you guys? So today we're going to make this adorable Batty Bag-a-lope Halloween treat. Isn't it just the cutest? I absolutely think this is just adorable. So I'm going to teach you how to make this. You're going to be shocked at what it's made with or from. And you can make a ton of these for very inexpensive. I did emphasize the eek on here, and I'm using the bats from Sweet Halloween. This is available on September 2nd, and then this one is available already. So this little eek is so cute. I've been dying to use it, and I have used it on this adorable project. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're gonna start with our base for our project. And the first thing that we are going to do is we're going to measure, guess what this is made from? From an envelope, guys. This is a white, basic white envelope, medium sized. And yeah, so I think they come in a pack of 40. So you can make like a ton of these. They're really quick and easy. You only need little strips of designer series paper, a label or something like that, a cute ribbon, some kind of embellishment. So what we're going to do is we are going to add our our envelope into our paper trimmer, and we're going to put the envelope, the back of the envelope, not the part that opens, the bottom, at 5 3/4 of an inch on our paper trimmer. And what that's going to do is it's going to cut away the glued section of our envelope. So when we place this down and we trim this, it's going to cut away this portion of our envelope, and it gets rid of the glue. It's about 3/4 of an inch, slightly bigger as the envelope rounds up, but basically about 3/4 of an inch. And you can discard that. You don't need that for anything. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to score our envelope, and we're going to score it on 3 sides. We're going to score both of the sides and then the bottom. And yes, you want to have the envelope butted up against with the flap open. Okay. So you're going to go 3/4 of an inch. So you're going to start here and come down 3/4 of an inch. And then rotate it to the bottom and do 3/4 of an inch. And then rotate it one more time and do 3/4 of an inch. The only place you're not going to do it is on the edge that you cut off that little flap. Okay, so 3/4 of an inch on all of the sides. And now we're going to do a little burnishing. So when you do an envelope, you just have to really make sure that you have your lines straight. So the straight edge is the bottom. So if you push on that end there and make sure that it's butted up against, you shouldn't have any problem getting a straight piece. And then of course you're going to use your bone folder to really mark that edge. And then same with the bottom. The raised part is what gets folded on, so you're going to bring that over. And again, this time you're going to make sure that this straight edge is right along with that straight edge, and that we don't have any buckling of our paper, because it's important that it stays straight. It is thinner because it's an envelope, so just make sure it doesn't buckle. And you want to go ahead and do your bottom. Okay, now we're going to do a little ink blending. We're going to use a basic beige ink pad and a small blending brush. I'm going to grab some scrap paper. I tend to use the same scrap paper over and over till it's gone. Or until it's so dirty you can't see. So we're going to go ahead and grab our ink, and I always rub the first amount off, and we're going to get this bottom section as dark as we can, but not black, just real dark. So I'm going to start with that and work our way up. but you want to have the darkest concentration near that score line there. So go over it a few times, and that will give you that nice dark layer that you're looking for. And then you can also do the bottom. It doesn't have to be as dark. No one's really going to see the bottom, but you don't want it to stay white, so do cover it with some color. And like I said, it doesn't have to be dark like this bottom section. I wanted it to go from dark and then work its way lighter. So again, I'm going to give it one more coat, and then now we'll start rolling this up. And here's the opening of our envelope. We're going to stop at some point up here. Excuse me. So just go ahead and fill in where you need more color. Right about there at the opening, okay? Because we're not going to see any of that. So let's flip over and do the same thing. So we're going to start here at this line, and remember, this is the part that I want the darkest, so I'm going to give that the most ink. We're going to work our ink up, and it'll be lighter at the top, and we're going to stop about the same. You can kind of see through the envelope and see where that opening is, and you're going to stop, I'm sorry, about there where the opening is of the envelope. Let's just smooth this out. Here we kind of have a distinct line here, and I want it to be gradual. So I'm still going to add a darker to the bottom and then the lighter up, but I'm going to blend that line so that it's not as noticeable. And again, we don't want the bottom to be white, so make sure that you add some color there, just not as dark as above that score line. It's fun adding that dark. Okay, so that's it for the ink blending. We are going to stamp our Batty Bats. I'm gonna find them. So this is 2 separate stamps, and I added them onto the same block, and I kind of toggled them so that the bats weren't the same direction. We're going to stamp them up onto our piece and culminating at the top here. So I'm gonna come up and start with that one, and then kind of work toggling my stamp back and forth, my bats in multiple directions so that they don't look like they're the same. And it's okay if you get some on the bottom. The most important thing is that you get the coverage that you want on your bats. And there we go. Gonna add one there and right there. All right, let's flip. Actually, I want one right there. Okay, let's flip and do the same thing again. We're gonna start at the top and work our way down and make our little bats look like they're flying. So cute. And then just make sure I have some bats on the edge. All right. See, hard part over. Let's go ahead and clean our stamps. All right, we're gonna work on our little bag envelope next. So what we're gonna do is where that score line is, we're gonna push out, Okay, so we're gonna kind of put our hands in here and get our envelope ready. And then these corners, we're gonna flatten this bottom piece so it's the bottom of our bag. See how it's flattened here in the bottom. So we're going to work on that. So we're gonna push that down. As we do that, it's gonna form these peaks. You just wanna make sure that this line forms a really good triangle right here so that it's not crooked. See? Right there, we're gonna do the same thing on this side. So we're gonna push. And as it indents, you wanna make sure that this seam is straight across and that it fills the entire piece, okay? And then once you have that straight, you can form your little triangular peaks at the bottom. That's gonna form your sides, and you can kind of squeeze those together there. And then the same here, it's gonna form your sides. You can kind of squeeze that together like that. So that's what you have so far. So let's work on these two little pointed flaps. We have to attach them down. And for me, because our envelope is paper, the best kind of glue is a glue dot. So I'm just going to add 2 glue dots, one to one side of that flap and one to the other. And then that should be enough to, did I get them both? Yeah. To attach this flap down. So we're going to push that point down and it's going to form our box bottom. Okay, now we're going to do the other one. So we're going to grab 2 glue dots, one for one side and one for the other, right there. And then we will flatten our little triangle down. And now we have our bottom. So another thing that you can do is grab your bone folder and just rub over where that triangle is on both of those ends and just make sure that they're nice and flat. Okay, so now we need to adhere this top section, okay? We want these 2 flaps to lay flat right here, okay? Let me show you this one. So see how they are attached right here, but not on this bottom section. So just the top section is what we're gonna do next. Let me put my, oops, I have a glue dot there. I need to add it back onto this paper somehow. I don't know, they're hard to add onto this. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave this here like this, I think. And hopefully I can use it next time. I missed one. All right. So let's add a little glue. I'm gonna add wet glue, but you could add seal if you want. I'm just gonna add it to that one piece and not a ton because you don't wanna oversaturate. This paper is very thin because it's just an envelope. So just a thin layer. And you wanna add those right to the edge there. So when you do that, you're gonna go right until you hit that end, and then this is gonna bring this corner in, okay? And that will make this piece straight right here. And of course, these sides also come in. So make sure that you have it laying just right. When you bring the sides in and they lay flat, that will help you to glue this part flat. So you can use your bone folder, all kinds of stuff to get it to lay, okay? So now here's the opening, okay? Just like that. We're gonna add some designer series paper to this piece and this piece, and I decided to put on the inside of mine some Fun Dip. John loves this stuff. It reminds him of being a kid. And he likes any kind of soury things because he loves sweet tarts. So Fun Dip is perfect. So I put one of each color. You can get them in a 6-pack, I think, or a 5-pack, I can't remember, from the dollar store. So those are going in our little envelope. You just slide them in the front and they fit perfect. So we're gonna use that. And let's just go ahead and add our designer series paper to this section right now. So for the designer series paper, I have 2 pieces. They're both from the Botanical Textures, but if you wanted to add a pop of color below this piece, you could. I did a gray and white, and then, whoops, I added a black pattern. So I'm gonna attach that black pattern to this white piece, and then we'll have a cute little edge, just like I did right here. So let's grab our silicone mat, get our bone folder out of here. We don't need that. I'm just gonna add a little bit of glue just to this edge of this 1/2 inch piece. This is 1/2 by 4 1/4, and then my wider piece is 1 1/2 by 4 1/4. So 1/2 by 4 1/4, and then 1 1/2 by 4 1/4. So you're going to attach both of those together so they look like they're one little piece, but they have that nice dark edge on there. I think that looks really good, but if you wanted to put a color, you could. And now we're going to attach this directly onto the flap. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just put the glue on the envelope. So I'm going to hold it in place and put it down, and then that way this will be covered completely, and then the piece that sticks out will stick out, and we don't have to put glue in the wrong spot. So go ahead and put your glue onto your envelope piece. You want to lay it like this where that crease is there. That crease is going to help you as you add your piece to not go past that flap, and that will help you to get it in place. Just push down. And there is our front piece. Isn't that so cute? So now we want to close this, and I decided to use a 5/8 of an inch piece of Velcro dots. I do have these linked in the video description. So when you get them, they come separate. There's a white Velcro and then a more see-through. So we're going to pull the back off of the white side, and we're going to add that underneath here because we're not going to see it as well. Okay, and we're going to push this down so that it attaches. So you're going to put it right there in the center, push down on it. Let's put our fun dip in there, which will help us to be able to push against something. So we'll slide those inside, and then we're going to pull the back off the translucent or the more see-through piece. So when you get the Velcro, it comes in the dots. I just cut one of each dot, one white, one clear. I stuck the 2 of them together, and then I pulled the back off of the white, and now we've just pulled the back off of the clear one. And I'm just gonna close my bag and just press down in that area. Once I feel like it's in there good, I'm gonna pull back, and then separately, I'm gonna put my hand in here and push, and then push here. All right, so that is complete and closed. Okay, so there's our little bag so far. But now we have to add some color. We have those cute little bats, but we need some color going on. And another thing is you want to really crease your little bag so it stands nice. And there's that one. So now we're going to go ahead and work on this little section right here. So I have one of the little bats. I decided to use the cartoon bat since I had used the bat on the piece, and this is from the Spooky Sweet designer series paper, from the piece that you can fussy cut the cute little critters. So you want to work your way around, just leave a little edge all the way around your piece. I love that this bat is dressed like a ghost. I think it's so cute. And he's peeking out from underneath his little ghost costume. Whoever did this paper, whoever illustrated it, is so cute. They did such a great job. All right, so I want to make sure I get his little bat wings very well. There we go. And down and around the other side of his little ghost costume. And I think that's it. All right, so there he is with his little trick-or-treat sack. All right, so now we're going to attach our eek onto the banners. So this is from the Stylish Shapes, and they have 4 banners in there. And it's the largest of all the banners, this big one. This one was too short, so I needed a longer one. So I went with this one. And this one's actually a smidge wider than this one. This is a little fatter. So this one worked out really well. It fit the eek perfectly. And I'm gonna go ahead and flip that over, add our wet adhesive, and add our eek. So when I add the glue to things like this, I act like my glue is a pen, and I just kind of go over the letters like I am drawing them. And to me, that's really the best way to add the glue. Just don't over squeeze. Now I'm going to use my tweezer because I don't want to get glue on my fingers. I'm going to grab my eek, and we're going to add it right here to the end of our label. And isn't it so cute? There we go. Press that into place. Adorable. Make sure I don't have any extra glue anywhere, because sometimes I shimmy these things around and I don't want any glue. All right, so there's that. We're going to add our cute little guy here, but first let's poke some holes in this piece. So remember a while back I had shown you this punch hole assortment 3-pack of punches. You definitely want to get your hands on this. You want to use the 1/8 of an inch circle. And we're going to punch 2 holes. We're going to punch 1 on that side of this little peak, and then 1 on the other side of it. So you kind of look for the peak. Doesn't matter if they're perfectly straight, no one's going to see them. We're just going to use that to add our ribbon. So once you've punched your 2 holes, you can put those away. And we're going to put our ribbon through. So this is about 10 inches or so of ribbon. You're going to put 1 piece through 1 hole, and then the other piece through the other hole, and pull them to the front. Kind of like you're pulling laces through a shoe, right? And now we're just going to tie a bow. Just make sure that you have your ribbon nice and straight, and you're going to tie your bow. And then we're going to add with some dimensionals our cute little bat. And then of course we're going to add that to our flap. And then that's it. That's our cute project. Pretty easy. You can make a bunch of these. The bag-a-lopes, you just make a bunch in different colors. You could use the candy corn from the Sweet Halloween and have a variation of some orange, some yellow, some black. I think that would be fun. All right, and you might have another older retired Halloween set that would have some small, cute Halloween scened pieces you could add. All right, so there's our ribbon looking pretty cute. So let me show you real quick. You could also do the stars. You could do a purple bag with stars, maybe the bats, the candy corn. So this is a great little set. You're gonna love this set. It's coming out on September the 2nd. It's an online thing from the Halloween stuff. So yeah, they're really fun. Okay, so let's go ahead and attach our little guy. So now when we attach him, we're not going to put a ton of glue. He's going to be kind of overlapping our ribbon, but we don't want him to cover up where you can't read the word eek. So I'm actually going to add the adhesive to the tag. So I'm just going to grab my large dimensionals, probably 2 will work. Oops, that must have got stuck up there. I'm going to put 1 there and 1 like that, kind of angled. I'm going to pull the backs off, and then he is just going to live. So like his little basket kind of covers a little bit of the E, but hopefully you can still see him well and see the words. I think it turned out really cute. So now again, we're going to add dimensionals to the back of this piece, and then we're going to attach this onto our flap right here. Okay, and you want to see how it's going to be angled on and where you're going to place it so that your eek does it, if you want it to hang off, you can put him directly in the center. And if you want both pieces on, you can angle it a little bit to the left. I did that the first time, so I'm going to do this in the center so that you guys can decide what you think will work best for you. So I'm just going to add maybe 3 dimensionals on the back of this piece. And this will hold our little label in place. It's so cute. Isn't this the cutest little project? Of course, we still have to do some stars as our finishing touch, but let's go ahead and I'm gonna have him be centered there as our center little piece and push that down. We can open the flap, which makes it a little easier to push, and push those into place. Looking good so far. Let's trim our ribbon. Want to add a cute little edge. There we go. Maybe this one a little bit shorter. And there's our ribbon. Looking cute. All right, and the last thing we want to do is add our stars. Oh my God, I'm just tossing it everywhere. All right, so I decided to use some purple, and I added 3 of those onto here. So let's add some stars. We're gonna put 1 here, 1 here. The stars are literally so cute, are they not? And 1 right there. And look at how adorable that is. Just precious. All right, so again, let's see, what did we use? We used Sweet Halloween. I have them laying down because they're harder for you to see when they're standing up, but I'm gonna try and stand them for right now to make room for all the products. So we used Sweet Halloween. We used Stylish Shapes for our tag. We used the Eek from Fright Night Dies. Oh, sorry, I had something else in my hand. So from Fright Night Dies, and I think they turned out amazing. What do you guys think of this cute project? I think it turned out so, so cute. I hope that you enjoyed watching me put it together. I did more bats on this one, less on this one, so it's really up to you how much you want to fill yours. The backs, both, this one, I kind of like the back of this one better than this one, but I mean, you make it, play with it, decide what works for you. But I think they turned out really cute. Thanks for watching. And if you missed yesterday's video, I always attach it onto the current video, so you can just click right up here and watch that. Thanks for hanging out with me. It's Kelly with Inky Handsome Hearts. Happy stamping!